Willkommen! Welcome back to the channel. My name is Sean Huggins and this is React with Hugs. Thank you so much for being here. Today, we are here with Professor Stein and we're going to be checking out every crazy Nazi plan explained by a German. Oh, I'm actually very excited for this because the Nazis had a lot of crazy ideas, other than the obvious ones. Like other stuff. I'm not talking about the obvious things here. I'm talking about stuff like the largest gun ever made in humanity, Schwer Gustav. I did a video on that on this channel in the past. Stuff like that. These crazy dreams of grandeur that the Nazis had. All these crazy plans. It's just fascinating to learn about some of these plans that they actually had and were actually trying to implement. Again, apart from the obvious terrible stuff. Okay, anyways, I'm excited to see what else I can learn about these guys. So let's waste no more time yapping and just hop straight into it. Los geht's.
The Germania world capital. Despite his dislike of Berlin, seeing it as too modern and Jewish, Hitler planned to turn it into Germania, the Nazi world capital post-World War II victory. Albert Speer, his chief architect, led the 20-year 500 million Reichsmark project to demolish central Berlin, relocating residents to homes of deported Jews. The core of Germania was a new city layout defined by two intersecting boulevards, forming a huge cross over the city. The north-south axis would stretch 5 kilometers, serving as a grand parade route with traffic diverted into an underground highway. At the heart of Germania would be the Großer Platz, 350,000 square meters in size. It was to be flanked by the Führer's Palace, the Reichstag, the new Reich Chancellery and the Army High Command. In the north end would be the Volkshalle, the People's Hall, designed by Hitler and planned to be the largest enclosed building ever constructed. Over 200 meters tall and 250 meters wide, seating 120,000 people. The assembly square in front of it would dwarf St. Peter's Square.
Whoa. All right, so already starting off with a bang. Literally wants to make the largest building ever constructed. Already fascinating stuff here.
An arc based on Paris's Arc de Triomphe, scaled up to nearly 100 meters tall, was planned in the south of the boulevard. Germania's massive scale was meant to awe supporters and intimidate enemies by making them feel small and powerless. The Nazis tested Berlin's soil with a 12,600-ton concrete cylinder, the Schwerbelastungskörper, built by French forced labor, still standing today. Swedish granite was imported, but Germania remained a fantasy with almost nothing built. The Greater Germanic Reich was the name of the vast empire Nazi Germany aimed to establish across Europe. It was part of Hitler's New Order, reshaping Europe into a racially German-dominated continent. This excluded the Soviet Union, which the Nazis saw as Judeo-Bolshevist, culturally non-European and criminal. The plan envisioned direct annexation of territories like Austria, Bohemia, Western Poland and many others into an enlarged German state. These areas would be absorbed fully, while surrounding regions would become satellite states. Spain, Portugal and Italy were expected to fall under total German control. The western frontier aimed to restore borders from the Holy Roman Empire, bringing in all of Wallonia, French-speaking Switzerland and much of northern and eastern France. Britain, rather than being annexed, was seen as a potential naval ally of the Reich. British men would have been used as industrial slave labor. British women were to be impregnated by German soldiers to Germanize Britain.
God damn!
The Channel Islands were to become part of the empire, repurposed into strength through joy vacation resorts. Ireland, once occupied, would be unified and governed together with Britain. But the Nazis' regime's expansionist focus was on the east. The idea of Lebensraum aimed to colonize vast areas of Eastern Europe, pushing Germany's reach to the Ural Mountains. Under Generalplan Ost, this expansion would involve continued mass extermination and ethnic cleansing, removing Slavs, Jews, Roma and others considered inferior to make way for German settlers. The surplus Russian population west of the Urals would be deported into Siberia. Estonians, Latvians, and Lithuanians were marked for future assimilation through Germanization. The Breitspurbahn
Okay, here we go. Back to building crazy stuff. A little bit lighter.
Was a massive broad-gauge railway project planned by Nazi Germany to connect the cities of the Greater Germanic Reich.
Oh my god, it's the Deutsche Bahn.
And beyond. Conceived by Hitler himself, the train was meant to be central to his vision of global domination, replacing maritime shipping with high-speed continent-spanning rail.
Damn.
The Breitspurbahn was
So basically, Deutsche Bahn on steroids, I guess.
designed with a 4-meter gauge, over twice the regular width.
Whoa.
The project was prioritized.
Okay, massive trains. Holy crap.
In 1941 and granted 84,000 tons of steel, despite shortage. The passenger trains were to be massive, 6 meters wide and 7 meters tall, fully stacked with chandeliers, restaurants, a cinema, a glazed viewing platform, a car with 4 bathtubs and 20 showers, hair salons, and even a pastry shop. One key goal was a fast connection between Upper Silesia and the Donetsk Basin. Routes were planned from Berlin to Moscow, the Mediterranean to Munich, and deep into Eurasia. The trains were also designed for military use, with ammunition storage, space for tanks and troops, and even an anti-aircraft installation.
I mean, if we had something like this today, like high-speed rails that are also like double the capacity of the normal rails. I don't know the physics and engineering of it, but it seems like maybe that would be pretty beneficial for society. No? I don't know.
Under a dome. Ultimately, no Breitspurbahn trains were ever built. Some design documents ended up in the Soviet Union. The US invasion. Hitler saw war with the US as inevitable, envying its size and resources while fearing its power. Conquering Europe was his stepping stone to challenging America. Operation Pastorius was an early attempt to sabotage American infrastructure by infiltrating trained agents into the US. But the plan collapsed when Georg Johann Dasch, one of the German saboteurs...
I mean, bro, you gotta change your name. Bro, Georg Johann Bosch, you gotta change your name when you come to frickin' America, dude. Now you're George Johnson or something. I mean, something. Who else do we got here? Ernest Peter Berger. Bro, you gotta change your name. I mean, at least be Ernie Hamburger or something. You gotta change your names, bro.
Defected and alerted the FBI. The long-term invasion plan required a massive expansion of the Kriegsmarine. After expected victories over Britain and the USSR, Hitler intended to build a navy capable of transporting millions of German troops across the Atlantic. Two invasion routes were considered: a German-Japanese pincer attack via Alaska and coastal cities, or an assault from North Africa to New Orleans, using the Mississippi River to strike inland. The Germans also planned to occupy the Azores, the Canary Islands, and others to gain Atlantic bases. The Amerika Bomber project aimed to develop long-range bombers capable of reaching the American mainland. Ultimately, Hitler envisioned Britain, once defeated, joining Germany in a final war against America.
Bro, what? This is crazy.
Envisioned a post-war occupation of the United States to use it as a breeding ground. He viewed America as rich in Aryan blood due to European immigration and admired its restrictive immigration policies. Under Nazi control, the US would be stripped.
He admired America's restrictive immigration policies. I wonder what Hitler would think of modern American immigration policies. What's been happening this past presidency? That would be interesting if we could get Hitler on a podcast to see what he would think about today's American immigration policies.
Of racially inferior populations and transformed into a racially pure extension of Nazi ideology. The Arctic Empire. In 1938, Nazi Germany launched an Antarctic expedition and claimed part of Queen Maud Land as Neuschwabenland. The goal was to establish a long-term German colony. The short-term goal was extracting whale oil to cut reliance on imports.
What? Whale oil? You're gonna go back to whaling for oil? What? Also, who the hell is signing up to colonize Antarctica? That sounds terrible.
But the real aim was propaganda, flaunting Germany as a global power. Plans for further expeditions to the Pacific side of Antarctica were also considered, but the outbreak of World War II halted all activity. The Nazis also had plans to build a new city in Norway called Nordstern, near Trondheim. It was to serve as a naval hub, cultural center, and symbol of German dominance in the north. The city was intended to house 300,000 Germans and feature a museum of German art, a Grand War cemetery, and a towering memorial. Nazi mythology tied it to Aryan origins, with plans for lavish cultural festivals celebrating Germanic gods. Nordstern was supported by top naval commanders Erich Raeder and Karl Dönitz due to its strategic position offering control over the North Atlantic. Hitler described it as a German Singapore. An autobahn was planned to connect it directly to Germany, running through Denmark, Sweden and Norway. The city was key to Germany's expanded Atlantic wall strategy, with Nordstern envisioned as a launching point for both defensive and offensive operations across the Atlantic, including against the United States. The global new order. Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy planned to establish political and economic dominance in regions outside Europe, turning them into ideological and resource satellites of the Axis. Africa was to be split up. Northern Africa under Italian control, Central Africa under German rule and Southern Africa under a pro-Nazi Afrikaner regime. In Asia and the Pacific, German communities across China, Japan, Australia, India and the Dutch East Indies were to be used to advance anti-communist sentiment and undermine Allied authority. In Tibet, they planned to start an anti-British rebellion to undermine Allied influence. Germany also retained claims to its pre-World War I Pacific colonies, such as New Guinea and Samoa, considering selling them to Japan. Hitler believed that Australia and New Zealand would be colonized by Japanese settlers in the future. In Palestine, they had plans to establish a puppet Arab regime hostile to Zionism. The broader vision for the region included a greater Arab Union aligned with Nazi Germany, with Saudi Arabia treated as an ally.
Oh, damn. Okay, that's kind of crazy. Yo, how did they have so much time for all these plans? Like, my God, are they just sitting around scheming all day, every day? Don't they have stuff to do? Didn't they have like wars to be winning, even though they end up losing? Shouldn't they have been focusing more on that than making all these crazy plans for the future?
In Iran, considered racially Aryan and thus immune to Nazi racial laws, Germany planned to trigger an anti-Allied revolt and turn the country into a major Axis partner. Afghanistan was to be transformed into a client state under Amanullah Khan, serving as a forward base against British influence. Central Asia and India were marked for ideological colonization, with Turkic populations targeted for military recruitment and Germanization. The whole subcontinent would be divided, Germany controlling the western part, modern-day Pakistan, and Japan annexing the rest. In the Americas, Germany and Japan aimed to challenge US dominance. Japan planned to seize the Panama Canal and convert Central America into a colonial hub under Tokyo's command. The Nazis sought to dominate South America economically, using German expatriates, Lutheran networks, and local fascist groups. The short-term
Yo, this is wild. So, like, if Germany won World War II, then if all their plans went through and they were successful with all their plans, then what, everybody in the world would be either German or Japanese now? Or I guess Italian? Like, what? There's only 3 countries in the world now? If Germany wins and Germany's allies win World War II and all their plans are successful, then you're either German or you're Japanese or you're Italian? Like, that's it?
Focus was on Nazifying German communities and creating espionage networks. Long-term goals included political penetration through coups and separatist projects. Schemes like the Fuhrmann Plan and Guyana Project envisioned Axis-aligned mini-states. Hitler also expressed a desire to found a new Germany in Brazil, expanding into surrounding countries through German-speaking settler communities and fascist gauchos. The Führermuseum was Adolf Hitler's grand plan to create a gigantic building complex in the Austrian city of Linz, near his birthplace, as a centerpiece of the new Reich. It was intended as the greatest cultural hub in Europe, dwarfing Paris's Louvre, featuring an art museum, library, opera house and theater in one building. The museum area was to house an extensive collection of artworks looted, confiscated or purchased across occupied Europe. The art collection would be built around Hitler's preference for the 19th century.
Would he put his own artwork in the museum? That would be hilarious. He does all of this stuff, all the terrible, terrible things that he did for his entire life lead up to him constructing the biggest museum in Europe or whatever, just so he could put his art in the museum and be able to say that he is a real artist. Imagine that timeline.
Century German romantic and realist paintings, rejecting modern art which he vilified as degenerate and Bolshevik. The city of Linz was to be transformed into a cultural capital that would eclipse Vienna, which Hitler despised for its modernist tendencies and Jewish influence. He envisioned the city as the new heart of German culture, filled with neoclassical architecture, all designed to project the ideological values of the Nazi regime. Linz should become the most beautiful city on the Danube.
Oh my god. This illustration is so weird.
And an industrial and trading hub. Its development realized through forced labor and concentration camps such as Mauthausen nearby. Hitler invested enormous personal interest in this project, sketching building layouts himself and constantly discussing its details. Though the museum was never constructed, thousands of artworks destined for it were already collected and stored, initially in Munich and later hidden in the salt mine at Althaussee, later captured by the Allies.
Dude, they hid artwork in a salt mine? Huh? Why? What? When the war is collapsing around them, why are they prioritizing hiding artwork? That's so weird.
The Nazi television propaganda network.
Oh, is that Fox News?
Hitler's regime dreamed of a dystopian TV empire, the Deutscher Fernsehrundfunk, to control minds across the Greater Germanic Reich. Launched in 1935 as the world's first regular TV service in Berlin, the Nazis planned to blanket Germany with giant 2-meter-wide wooden TV screens in town squares, laundries, beer halls.
Wooden TV screens? How the heck does that work? What? Okay.
And factories, broadcasting propaganda 24/7. Programs included Aryan family shows like Family Chronicles, An Evening with Hans and Gelly, live Nazi rallies, and even executions to terrify dissenters. The network aimed to replace radio with a communal TV tower in every village. Engineers sketched mobile TV vans to beam signals into rural areas, and Himmler pushed for loyalty tests, where viewers had to report on neighbors who didn't clap for broadcasts. Limited broadcasts started in 1935, but the grand plan for a totalitarian TV empire never materialized. The Madagascar Plan. Before the final solution, the Madagascar Plan was a scheme to deport the entire Jewish population of Europe to the island of Madagascar. Proposed in 1940 by Franz Rademacher and supported by Hitler. This plan imagined relocating 1 million Jews per year over 4 years, with the SS ruling the island as an open-air prison. Madagascar, remote and underdeveloped, was chosen precisely because of its perceived harshness. The deportees were not meant to thrive, and many were expected to die from exposure, disease or starvation. Adolf Eichmann outlined a process of forced resettlement, seizing Jewish assets to fund the plan, and the establishment of a new Jewish territory under strict German oversight. The plan imagined limited Jewish self-governance, but all under the shadow of SS authority, with German naval and air bases securing dominance over the island. After defeating Britain, the Nazis wanted to use the British fleet for transport. By late 1941, the plan was abandoned in favor of systematic genocide in Eastern Europe. Enhanced breeding
Plan B.
programs. Central to Nazi Germany's long-term vision of global domination were expansive pro-natalist programs to boost the birth rate of so-called Aryan Germans, aiming to populate not only the existing Reich but also the newly conquered Eastern territories. According to Himmler, the ultimate goal was to create a racially homogeneous German population of 200 million. To support this vision, the Nazis institutionalized the Lebensborn program, initially created in 1935, which provided maternity homes and financial incentives to racially valuable women who agreed to bear children for the Reich, often outside of marriage.
Yo, what? They would give homes and money to women who would just have babies. They would just have babies. What? They would just have babies with the important men, basically, men of good bloodline, basically, and they were deemed good bloodline. So they would get houses and money for just having babies, just existing and having babies. That's crazy. They invented the Kardashians before the Kardashians. What? Getting houses and money for just having babies? They invented the Kardashians before the Kardashians. This is wild to me.
Women were encouraged to partner with SS officers or other racially screened men. Over time, Lebensborn became involved not only in encouraging German births, but also in kidnapping and Germanization of racially suitable children from occupied countries. Public honors like the Gold Honor Cross of the German Mother were awarded to women who bore 8 or more children. Motherhood was idealized as a women's highest calling in service of the folk. The program was planned to be expanded even further across newly Germanized regions. Martin Bormann and Himmler also planned reforms to boost population growth by allowing war heroes to legally marry additional wives.
Damn. Wow. All right. I think I need a smoke break after that one. And I don't even smoke. That was a lot to take in. I definitely find the building projects fascinating. You know, obviously a lot of the sort of ethnic cleansing type of stuff is very depressing to learn about, but it's important to not forget about it either. That being said, I definitely prefer learning about just the crazy building projects that they had, because it's, like I said, it's less depressing to learn about. Jesus, that was a heavy video. But anyways, I'm curious what you guys, the experts, have to say. What do you think of the video? Let me know your thoughts. Leave your mustard down in the comment section below. And when you're done there, consider subscribing, leaving a like, all of that good stuff. It's quick, easy, free, and it really helps the channel a lot. So thank you in advance. That being said, though, that's all the time that I have for today. So thank you guys so much for being here. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.